Hi BookTube. So I am catching up on BookTube videos, and I saw that Karen over at Roving Reader had announced the Shorty September reading event where you read books on 250 pages or less, and then she was doing a anti-TBR nonfiction and fiction version. And so I was like, that gave me the inspiration to comb my shelves to see what books I had that fit the prompts, and I wanted to start with nonfiction. So I have, let me see if I can do a stack here. A tower of books of my very ambitious TBR. I am actually going to be doing a TBR, not the anti-TBR, but nothing against that as well. But this is more really an anti-TBR, like just a pile of possibilities. But it would be great if I could get to all of these books, because some of them I recently purchased and just did a book haul for, but most of them have been on my shelf for quite a while. And for books that are under 250 pages, like there's no excuse other than I have so many. So I went through every single of my nonfiction shelves, which is the majority of my bookcases. I have 3 bookcases here, and there's, let's see, I utilize the very top as well. So let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shelves. So I got probably 12 books or so to share with you. And so most of them not only are nonfiction, but are focused on nature, something to do with that, whether it's like pioneer history of things or niche geographically focused, or it could be like a flora or a fauna or what have you. But it's more exciting than that. I feel like when I give that description, it sounds very boring and dull. But I promise, a lot of these authors I have read before and have greatly enjoyed. And yeah, they're more entertaining reads than my description. So the first one is an author that I have read quite a bit of, and I actually own several of his books. And most of them I feel like are under 250 pages. So this is Brown Dog of the Yak, Essays on Art and Activism by Rick Bass. And let me see here if I can grab some of his books. The ones that I have greatly enjoyed in the past is Winter, Notes from Montana by Rick Bass. And this is his journey moving from Texas to Montana and how he got set up and fell in love with the area. And then the other book, I think this might have been the first book I read from him, is Coulter. And this is about the true story of the best dog I ever had. And this is his like friendship with the dog. And he takes the dog out hunting, and just you get to learn the personality of the dog. So yeah, these are the 2 books I've most enjoyed from Rick Bass. But this is one I haven't read before. And the Yak area, the Yak Valley, is the area that he moved to and is greatly promoting to save, because it's listed as, I want to say it was listed as, it's been a while since I read this author, I think it's a national forest, so it doesn't have the protections that a national park would, or a state park. And so he's like, I feel like constantly through the decades trying to save this area, and I don't know what the status is right now. But some of these books are older. When did this one come out? Let me see here. I'm saying, yeah, 1999. So you know, 25 years later, 26 years later, what is the status of this? I'm not exactly sure, but I know for sure it's not a national park, unfortunately. But yeah, because he was talking about this area is the area of Montana that he's in. He's in the northwest corner, the tippy top, and how it's very much different from the rest of Montana, which can be more arid or flat, you know, once you get to the eastern side. And so his area seems to be more like where I live in Oregon, where it's more like a temperate area with lots of rain, and like more softer, I guess you could say, a softer climate, not as harsh. And then let's see, I'm not gonna go that much detail for all of these books, I promise. But let's see, the next one is Home Below Hell's Canyon by Grace Jordan. Hell's Canyon is an area here in Oregon that I've never gone to before, and it seems to me a little bit difficult to get to, because it's deeper than the Grand Canyon. But I've been to the Grand Canyon a couple of times, and that's much easier to drive to, whereas Hell's Canyon, it's way out in the wilderness, and it seems to be like it's like a bumpy road to get there from what I've seen when I've looked at online. And it's in eastern Oregon, northeast Oregon. And but yeah, if I can't travel there easily, at least I can read about it. And I'm not familiar with this author at all. Let's see. The next one is String Too Short to Be Saved, Recollections of Summers on a New England Farm by Donald Hall. This is a book I recently purchased this last month, and here's the author on the back. And speaking of places I've never been to but want to, New England is on the top of the list, especially for the summer of New England. In the fall, oh my goodness, the fall. But yeah, this just sounded very charming. It has like this old-timey feel to it. Okay, then we have, going back to Montana, Montana Surround by Phil Condon, Land, Water, Nature, and Place. And it's a foreword by William Kittredge, and I'm familiar with that author. I've heard about him, but this author I'm not familiar with at all. And I didn't want to pick, the same region for multiple books, but this is probably one of the shortest books on the shelf when I was combing through each one. But this seems to be more like, where this one is like his personal interactions with the land. This seems to be more of like a scientific approach, a little bit removed from it. Then we have an author I am much familiar with, Gladys Tabor. This is Still Cove Journal. And here is the author on the back with her cat Amber. And she wrote many books about her Still Meadow farm. And this Still Cove is her beach, her beach house. And I read one other book. Let's see if I can grab it. It's more much more well known than this one. My Own Cape Cod. This book I've seen quite a bit. If I go to used bookstores and they have Gladys Tabor, this often is one that is more prominent. This one I've only seen the one copy that I purchased, but there's like a sequel to that one. And so she's just like very charming. Like you're sitting down with your grandma over a cup of tea and cake, and you're listening to her stories. I really like them. I really like her stories. Then the next one is Silton Seasons, From the Diary of a Countryman by R.D. Simmons. I am not familiar with this author at all. He's the author of The Broken Snare, so maybe he's written quite a few books. But this is, let's see, it's in the vein of Thoreau's Walden. And I can't tell you how many times I've read nature books going through a year. I have quite a few on my shelf where it's, going through the seasons of a specific location. How many times they're compared to Thoreau? But this one is a small village of Silton, Saskatchewan. So an area I'm not familiar with at all. I've never been to Canada. But so I'll get to know a little bit about it from reading it. Another Oregon book, Listening for Coyote, A Walk Across Oregon's Wilderness by William L. Sullivan. And this takes place in Eastern Oregon, and I'm on the western side of things where, you have all the moss and the ferns and the really tall, like Douglas fir trees. But on the eastern side, there's it's nothing like the Portland area. It's very much it's like high desert. And so, think of like sagebrush and tumbleweeds and that kind of thing, where it's very dry and arid. But I've only driven through that area, and I've stayed in Bend a couple of times. But I've never gone out onto the flatter parts of Eastern Oregon. So another one where I can read about it and not have to do all the hiking and with the sun glaring on you to enjoy it. This next one is To the Woods, Sinking Roots, Living Lightly, and Finding True Home by Elvin Searle Hess. Oh, it's an interesting cover here. And it won, what award is this? The Women Writing the West, the Willow Literary Award winner. And here is the author on the back. And I believe this also takes place in Oregon. Yes, the author managed the University of Oregon's greenhouses for 10 years. Okay, that's interesting. So she wasn't like a teacher, but she worked on the property, and she lives in the foothills outside of Eugene, Oregon. It's all about like her backyard, perhaps. But we'll have to wait and see what exactly it's like. Yeah, because this just has a bunch of blurbs. It doesn't have a description, so I'm only guessing here. This next one I pulled from my Laura Ingalls Wilder collection. I have quite a few. This is volume 2 in her series of Writing to Young Women. And this one is On Life as a Pioneer Woman by Stephen W. Hines. And he wrote he collected a big volume of her Laura Ingalls Wilder's newspaper clippings. And when she wrote for the Missouri ruralist before she became an author. She wrote for the local newspaper on like the farming and how to be a farmer's wife and being part of like the local community. And so he wrote that big book, but he also has these 3 books focused on these niche topics. So this one is on life as a pioneer woman. So this kind of will go hand in hand with her pioneer books for the Little House on the Prairie series. And so this is a really short book. I feel like the hardcover is equal to the amount of pages in here, but it'll be a nice quick read. And then we have The Gentle People, Stories of Animals Who Came to Stay by Irresistible. And there's lots of animals here on the cover. I've seen many a raccoon on my night walks with my dog Fable. Let's see. And here is the author. And let's see, where does this take place? Or where? Let's see. And there's a bunch of people have like, this seems to be like an old library copy from Alexandria, Virginia, but there's a bunch of like people who have read it. So it seems to be much beloved. But she now lives. She's a native of Cleveland and now lives in Haynes Falls, New York, where scores of gentle people enjoy her hospitality. Oh, I just love that. I love like books focused on specific animals where they're encountering in their backyard or something like that. This is another one where I recently purchased it this past month. This is Girlhood Days, Memories of Hoosier Homemakers by Eleanor, and this is edited by Eleanor Arnold, and this is all about Indiana, and it has little paragraphs, little quotes from different people during this time period, and it also includes pictures as well. So this will be like a book you can pick down and pick up and put down throughout the month. It's not a straight narrative where I can just like read it all the way through quickly. And this last one is another one I recently purchased. I pulled it from my history shelf. It was like most of the history books I have are chunky books. So this was one of I think the only one that fit the bill for under 250 pages. But this is Journal and Letters of Philip Vickers Fithian, a plantation tutor of the Old Dominion, 1773 through 1774, and is edited by Hunter Dickinson Farish. And I thought this was interesting, as I mentioned when I just did my book haul, when I found this book, because I've read about different tutors for students. I've read about them, seen them mentioned in many a book, whether it's the Virginia plantation or talking about Boston, New England. I've seen it mentioned all throughout, but I've never read a book from their point of view, and so I thought I couldn't resist picking this up. Getting the first-hand account of things. So that is my entry for the nonfiction TBR for Shorty September. I'll leave a link in the description below to the different hosts for this event, and then I will look forward to pulling out books for my fiction submission. I don't know, making it sound so formal, but it's not. You can read any book. I feel like that. You can read one book and that fits for participating in the readathon. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.